Hey guys, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Montreal Mike. That's right, I am back. Just like Hanukkah, just like this dreidel, I'm back in your life. It's Hanukkah, it's a miracle. Let's celebrate. Today, we're celebrating Hanukkah, the Jewish holiday of lights, miracles, and military victories. And to commemorate this holiday, we're going to cook a traditional Ashkenazi dish, very popular, Latkes. For our potato latke recipe, we're going to need potatoes. We're going with russet potatoes, some salt, some matzah meal, which is essentially crushed matzah made into a flour that's going to be our binding agent, as well as a couple eggs to also keep everything together. We're going to need some cheesecloth because we're going to get as much water out of the potatoes as possible because we want the crispiest latke possible. And then we have our grater, and we'll make sure to peel our potatoes. And then we have our olive oil. You could use a different kind of frying oil. We're shallow frying these. I like this olive oil. Olive oil is traditionally associated with the miracle story of Hanukkah, so that's just an added plus to our recipe. Let's get cooking. I've gone ahead and washed and scrubbed the potatoes, and now we're going to peel them quickly. We'll just rinse off any of the extra residues from the potato peel. And then I went ahead and prepared a bowl of cold water. While we're peeling the rest of the potatoes, we'll put the peeled potatoes in the cold water just to avoid any kind of browning. Potatoes are peeled. I'll compose the peels and we're ready to get on with things. Now let's grate the potatoes. So I'll use the medium grater side here. Some people, as an option, add a little bit of onion. They grate a little bit of onion, which adds a little bit of flavor, but mostly it's also to help prevent the browning, but that's really optional. Of course, careful with your fingers and your hands, especially those last little bits. Take your time. Potatoes are grated. Now, time to get the maximum water out. But before that, we're going to make use of science and use our salt to help draw out as much moisture as possible. It's quite wet. You'll see they will come out miraculously crispy. Time to add the salt. We'll add salt liberally. Potatoes are really good at absorbing salt without having too salty of a taste. So we'll add a few pinches of salt in here. Give that a good mix. Now we'll just let it sit for about 5 minutes to help the salt draw out any additional moisture. It's been 5 minutes. Now we're going to use our cheesecloth to draw out as much moisture as we can. And we're actually going to do this in 2 steps. So let's open our cheesecloth. We'll use our cutting board to not do too much of a mess. So as you're putting the potatoes in the cheesecloth, kind of give them a bit of a squeeze before pulling them out of the bowl, just to help the process. Already you can see a lot of liquid has come out. and we're going to want to draw a lot more out. The more you wring out the water in this process, the crispier your latkes are going to be, and you're just going to be the fan favorite at your Hanukkah table. We put our potatoes in the cheesecloth. Now let's wrap it up and wring them out on top of our bowl. And really important, so we're going to do this twice, and we're actually not going to discard all of this liquid, because some of the starch is actually going to end up in this liquid. So what we'll do later on is we're going to try to discard most of that liquid, but keeping the starch. So getting the water out, but keeping the starch, because that's also going to help us with the binding process later on. So we made our little bag of potatoes here, and now use those muscles. Use that grip strength. Get that moisture out. Wow, that's a lot of liquid. This feels a lot drier. We're just going to sort of reshuffle things a bit here and reclose this, so you can see there's still quite a bit of liquid that we need to get out of here. Got to be strong, like the Maccabees, the heroes of the Hanukkah story. More about that a bit later. We're going to discard the water and try to leave the starch. Now, we do still have the matzah meal, the eggs. That's going to help bind things together. We've drawn out a lot of the water, but if you can keep some of the starch, not throw everything out, it's just going to help. I went ahead and discarded the water. This might not look pretty, but as you can see at the bottom, you kind of have a bit of a slurry, right? Like as if you want to use this to thicken maybe a gravy or a soup. That's because a slurry is usually a mixture of starch and water. So that's what we have here. We have a very thick slurry. We're going to put our potatoes back in here, mix it all up, give it another pinch of salt, and then mix the rest of the ingredients in. Get all the potatoes out as much as possible. Let's mix the potatoes with the slurry, the starchy slurry. Incorporate everything together here. Let's crack a couple of eggs. You can just crack them right into the bowl, less dishes. We'll give the eggs a quick beat, and we'll incorporate everything here together. The potatoes and the eggs have been incorporated, and now we're going to use matzah meal. Now, if you don't have matzah meal, you can technically use flour. Some people use baking powder. Matzah meal is very light, kind of keeps the latke light, but is a really good binder. Okay, so if you have matzah in your grocery store, even if you don't have matzah meal, you basically take the matzah, put it in the blender, blitz it, and you have matzah meal. For the amount of potatoes that we have, about a quarter cup should be good, but what we'll do is we'll give it a mix, see how it looks, and then if we need to add some more, we'll do that. I have a feeling that this should be enough. We've mixed potatoes, eggs, matzah meal. Let's add just a little bit more salt for seasoning. It's really the only seasoning we're adding. A couple pinches here. Of course, if you want to add some black pepper, maybe some garlic powder, you can, of course, do that. Really, the more traditional recipe is just with the salt, keeping it nice and simple. Let's incorporate everything together. This is what you should be left with. So you can see it's a relatively dry mixture. Things sort of are keeping together. And now we're ready to start frying. We've preheated our skillet. We'll now use our olive oil. As I said, you can use other kinds of oils, different kinds of oils for frying. You can even use, traditionally, in Eastern Europe, latkes would have actually been fried in in schmaltz, which is chicken or duck or goose fat, to give people. Ooh, this is smoking a little bit. Preheated a little too much here. To give people a kosher option where people don't mix dairy and meat products. So the goose fat, and if you want to have latkes with sour cream, we're using a non animal derived fat, being olive oil. I have a measuring cup for half a cup. That should be enough for a portion of a latkes. We have our wire rack ready here so that any excess oil can drip off while still remaining crispy. Here I have some fleur de sel. We're going to sprinkle a bit on top as they're coming off of the skillet. Of course, you can use regular salt, but it's a holiday Hanukkah, so we're doing things slightly more fancy. The oil is pretty hot. Let's get frying. Put about half a cup worth of potatoes in here. We'll put it out into the oil. Be careful. It's sizzling. And right away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spatula and I'll press it out. Press it out. Again, the thinner the latke, the crispier it's going to get. Of course, you have to be careful to still keep it intact. So, flatten it out, keep it intact. Really important, we do not want to crowd the pan. Again, if we crowd the pan, we're going to be creating a lot of steam, and we don't want steamed latke, we want fried latke. So we could probably shape another smaller one here on the side. Bring it together here, make sure it's nice and compact. The smell is really nice, even though they're still not done. A really nostalgic oil and potato smell from Hanukkah. If you guys celebrate Hanukkah, you know what I'm talking about. We can see that the edges are starting to crisp up, so we want to monitor that. We don't want to burn our latke, but we do want to get a nice crust. The goal is to get a nice crispy exterior and then a fluffy interior. That's what's delicious about a nice Hanukkah latke. Our first latke is ready to be flipped. Gotta be careful. Hot oil here. Look at that. Look at that crisp on top, nice and golden. Now we'll do the same on the other side. Our second latke should be ready to flip. Yes, it is. Nice and golden again. Very nice. Let's check back on our first latke. On the second side here, it's almost ready. Probably another minute or so, and it will be done. Can't wait to dig into these. Let's check on our first latke. Perfect. It's ready. Get some of the excess oil off. Onto the wire rack. And we'll hit our first latke with some fleur de sel. Perfect. Let it rest there. And now, as we finish frying up our second latke, let's learn more about the holiday of Hanukkah and why do we eat latke on Hanukkah. The Hanukkah story begins over 2,000 years ago in Judea, what's now modern-day Israel. The land is under the Seleucid Empire, one of the successor states carved out of Alexander the Great's massive empire. Antiochus IV makes life especially miserable, outlawing Jewish practices and imposing Greek customs.
The Jewish people are banned from practicing their faith, and the temple in Jerusalem is taken over. But a small rebel family rises up, the Maccabees. Maccabee likely comes from the Hebrew makaba, meaning hammer. These rebels became legendary for standing up to a massive empire. They defended their faith, culture, and land against impossible odds. And against all odds, the Maccabees win. They retake Jerusalem. They reclaim Jewish sovereignty in their own land for the first time in generations. When they rededicate the temple, they find only enough pure oil to light the menorah for 1 day. Miraculously, it lasts 8 days, hence the 8-day festival of Hanukkah, literally meaning dedication. So, how do we remember that? With fried food. Oil becomes sacred. But quick reality check. There were obviously no potatoes in Judea 2,000 years ago. That's right. The original latkes weren't potatoes. In medieval Europe, likely Italy, Jews made soft cheese fritters, fried in olive oil or butter. Cheese ties into the story of Judith, who defeats the Assyrian general Holofernes, feeding him cheese, getting him drunk on wine, and finally cutting off his head to save her people. That story actually happens centuries before the Hanukkah one, but it gets tied in later because the message is the same. A small, determined underdog taking down a massive empire. Now, for Jews living in Eastern Europe, dietary practices are slightly different. Olive oil is rare, and even butter is expensive. But Jews have schmaltz, rendered chicken fat. Kosher law says you cannot mix meat and dairy. So cheese plus schmaltz, just not happening. Enter the potato. Cheap, winter-proof, and neutral. Grated potato fries perfectly in schmaltz and stays kosher. And here's a fun fact. The word latke itself comes from a long language journey. From Yiddish, latke, from East Slavic, olatka, meaning small fried pancake, which ultimately comes from Hellenistic Greek eladion and ancient Greek elaion, meaning olive oil. Even the name of these pancakes reflects the oil central to the Hanukkah miracle. And just like that, the latke evolved from cheese fritter to potato pancake. Same miracle, different ingredients. So when you eat a latke on Hanukkah, you're not just enjoying fried food. You're celebrating the Maccabees and the Jewish resistance, survival, and the people who refused to disappear. And now that you know a little bit more about Hanukkah and why is it that we eat latke on Hanukkah, let's get this latke off the pan and start prepping our delicious Hanukkah meal. The time has come to try our delicious Hanukkah latkes. We have our Hanukkah or Hanukkah menorah lit up on the first night. The one candle plus the leading candle, the shamash, that we use to light the Hanukkah. We have our beautiful latkes, and here we have two options. Some people are team applesauce,
and some people are team sour cream. I personally love both, so that's what we're going to try. Let's try first the savory version. I'm even actually going to just try it just on its own. Look at this beautiful golden latkes that we fried together. Let's try this. Amazing. You can hear the crisp on the inside, still very fluffy, very tender, delicious. Let's try it with some sour cream on top. Bit of sour cream here. Fancying it up a bit with some chives. Let's try it with the sour cream. Honestly, even though you'd think sour cream is rich, as a fried food, there's actually a really nice balance. You have the cool sour cream, the warm latke, and honestly, the sour cream, because of the acidity, it really brings out that extra special taste to go with the latke. For those of you who are more team applesauce, let's try it with the applesauce. Let me know if you're more team sour cream or applesauce. Oh, just listen to that crisp. See? All that wringing out of the water. That's why we have this really crispy latkes. Let's try it with the applesauce. Also delicious, different. It's a bit cool, but you get a bit of the sweetness from the apple. And again, it's nice. The acidity of the apple cuts through the fat of the fried latke. So both are absolutely delicious. Let me know in the comments if you eat latke for Hanukkah, or if you're from a different background and you guys have other foods that you eat on Hanukkah. If you don't celebrate Hanukkah, have you had latkes before? Give it a try. Simple recipe, absolutely delicious. A classic of Ashkenazi Hanukkah cuisine. Thanks for watching. I'm back. We're going to be back with more videos, more in the kitchen videos, more videos around Montreal, videos from other cities coming very soon. I know I've been on a hiatus. Life got in the way. It's okay. We're back. And we're starting with this banger on Hanukkah. I want to wish everybody a happy, healthy Hanukkah. Chag Sameach likulam. Hope you get to spend time with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends. Enjoy, and see you guys soon for In the Kitchen with Montreal Mike. Ciao.